Right, so let's have a look at some more MidiPipe tools. Today we're going to have a look at the delay tool and the transpose tool as well. And as you can see here, I got today my keytar instead of my drum pads, and the reason for that is that this has fixed velocity, right? No matter how hard I press the keys, the velocity value is always going to be 64, I believe, or 63. And that is going to be very useful for what I'm going to show you today. So yeah, I've selected my MIDI Master Bluetooth dongle, which is connected to my keytar as my MIDI input, and I'm hijacking it. That means that no other application other than MidiPipe is going to receive MIDI from it, and then we can do our processing inside of MidiPipe. And then as the output, I've selected GarageBand's virtual input. I could also have selected MidiPipe virtual output number 1, not much of a difference there. So basically the MIDI that we added will go straight into GarageBand. If I did not hijack this, then the MIDI stream would be split. Part of it would go straight to GarageBand, and another copy of it would go into MidiPipe and then into GarageBand. So basically we would be doing some parallel MIDI processing, which obviously does not make any sense. So you want to hijack this. So yeah, let's use the delay tool first. I'm going to drag it in between my input and output. And as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You just have a numeric field here, and this is set to milliseconds. So if I input 1000 milliseconds, that's 1 second. And basically what it does is it delays whatever MIDI information it receives by 1000 milliseconds before sending it to the output. So if I play some notes, as you can see, it was not instantaneous. There was a bit of a delay there. That's pretty much all it does. Now, there's a note here that says only works if MIDI driver application supports scheduled events. Now, I'm using GarageBand with the stock drivers that came pre-installed on my laptop, so that seems to work. But if you're using something different, I guess your mileage might vary. But that's really all there is to say about the delay tool, so let's just remove it and drag the transpose tool in here, which, you know, has a little bit more going for it. So yeah, you have lines here, right? You can add or remove lines like that using the plus and minus buttons, and each line gives you access to 5 controls, right? Number 1 is this little checkbox. You can toggle whatever transformation happens here, you can toggle it on and off. And then the first kind of transformation is a MIDI note transposition. So I can set this all the way from plus 127 all the way to minus 127, which is pretty insane. Like, there's 127 MIDI notes, so we're covering twice that amount, right? Basically, you can transpose any note to any other note with this, which is quite cool. So here I have low F. If I set this to minus 12, we get 1 octave below that F. Pretty straightforward. Let me set this back to 0. But it doesn't stop there. We can also transpose velocity. So this keyboard transmits fixed velocity, right? And I think the value is 64. So if we set this to something like minus 50, right? We're gonna decimate our velocity here. And let me switch to GarageBand like I just did to show you that. Right, extremely low volume, but as you can see, something was happening there. Now, if we deactivate the transformation, much more volume at higher velocities, because this instrument here, this electric piano, assigns velocity to volume. So you also get a basic velocity transpose function there too, which is pretty cool. Let me reset this back to 0. Now remember, we just talked about the delay utility. You get the same here as well. You know, let's set this back to 1000, and as you can see, it delays the notes I'm sending into it. And then finally, you can also decide to change the channel for the converted notes, or leave it unchanged. Now in my case, I'm using GarageBand, like you've seen. And if I open my MIDI settings, you can see there's no way to set the MIDI channel. Basically, GarageBand just accepts whatever MIDI comes without any separation. You cannot separate it by tracks. So yeah, I cannot show you how that would affect anything, but if you have a piece of software where you can assign different MIDI channels, you can experiment around with this. Speaking of options, we do have some options down here. The only on channel option. Now, this is useful, and this I can actually show you. So my SHS-10 is sending MIDI information on channel 1. So if I set this to something different, like, 2, and activate it, it will bypass basically my transformations, because it's only gonna transpose notes coming to it on channel number 2. So if I set this to something outrageous, like, I don't know, plus 48 or something, right? Still getting that low note. Deactivate the option again. Right, and so as I was saying in the beginning, you can have multiple different lines of MIDI transpositions. Let me actually show you one neat little trick that I like to use. So I like to have 2 lines here. The first one set to -12, so 1 octave lower, and the second one, you guessed it, +12, 1 octave higher. And they are turned off by default, but I do have, you might have seen this in some other videos that I published, my blue board, just 4 MIDI buttons, very simple, but using the Apple script trigger tool, which one day we'll get to talk about that, I have set things up in such a way that whenever I press this button right here, it activates the -12 line here in the Transpose utility. Press it a second time, deactivates it again, and this button right here activates and deactivates the +12 line. So I can basically quickly transpose my notes up or down by 1 octave on the fly, just like that. And this is, I think, very useful for older keyboards like this one, where you cannot really do that. Now this would have a transpose function, actually. There is a transpose option here. If I click here, the display shows 0, so that's, no transposition going on. And then I have plus and minus buttons, so I can go up by an octave like that, click on both buttons to go back to 0, and then go all the way down to -12. But as you can imagine, this is just not usable live. You want something that you can really click or press, and instantaneously your notes get transposed upwards or downwards. So this might be useful in the studio, but not really live. And so using the Transpose tool for me was a nice way around this limitation, and maybe this could be useful for you as well. Right, so that's all I got for you today. Next time we're gonna have a look at the next tools, which are the 2 filter tools, the message filter and the channel filter. So yeah, can't wait to see you in that video. Take care.